Indonesia, an island continent with over 1,000 islands, which stretches from the Malaysian peninsula to New Guinea. With tropical rainforests, smoking volcanoes, steep, ragged cliffs, and gorgeous palm beaches. Java, the main island. An equestrian statue of the Prince Diponegoro and the viewing tower of Mona decorate the central Merdeka square of the capital, Jakarta. A lift rises to the observation platform of Monas, a 137 meters high marble obelisk with a grand view over the city center. In the basement, many display cabinets exhibit plastic scene illustrations of Indonesian development. The National Museum is one of the magnificent buildings in the vicinity of Merdeka Square. In the prehistoric section, you can find cultural objects, old pottery, and Hindu art and architecture. And young visitors are introduced to religious dances, which they clearly enjoy. The Willemskerk, a round sacred building crowned by a mighty dome, was named after King Willem in 1839. With a tuk-tuk, we progress to our next destination. The largest mosque in Southeast Asia, Masjid Istiqlal, with space for 20,000 believers. Also on the square and directly opposite is the Catholic Gereja Cathedral. In the south of the city is the lively old Chinese quarter of Glodok, where freshly caught fish, seafood and spices are all on offer. The oldest and most important Chinese temple was built as early as 1650 by Buddhists in honor of the goddess of mercy. Kota is the historical center of Jakarta and is considered a highlight for tourists. The Ceramics Museum, housed in the former Court of Justice, forms the east side of the square. The prestigious Stadhuis was built in 1710 and served as a town hall for administration as well as a prison. From here, the Dutch East India Company ruled its colonial empire. On the west side of the square, there is the extraordinary Wayang Museum, the Shadow Play Museum. Around the big square, many cabaret performers try their luck. And Gereja Sion reminds us of the lesser-known minority of black Portuguese inhabitants. The church is a relic of the perished Portuguese Empire. To the north lies Sunda Kelapa, the oldest port in Jakarta. The fishing port of Pasar Ikan is one of the biggest and liveliest in the city. It is a microcosm for animals and humans, and is to this day still an odor-intensive experience. The world's largest fleet of seafaring cargo ships is anchored in another part of the port. The former warehouses of the East India Trading Company now house a museum. Important parts of maritime history are on display here. The old lighthouse and watchtower was built over the bastion in 1839, with a view over the old harbour. Not too far from here is the leisure park, with the Ocean Dream Samudra, where trained sea lions perform novel tricks. You can get your photograph with them as well. Dolphins, too, show us their best tricks. Pure action is the order of the day with the Scorpion Pirates. And finally, a visit to the Underwater Theatre, which is sure to be unforgettable. At Pasar Seni, you can admire handicrafts from all over the country and maybe even purchase one or two of your favorite items. On weekdays, the beach promenade is quiet. This is the ideal time for an interesting ride by gondola around the Taman Impian Jaya Ancol area. The beautiful Indonesia in Miniature Park is located on the southern edge of the capital, Jakarta. In this theme park, reconstructed traditional houses from the Indonesian provinces line an artificial lake, each with their own art, culture and traditions. It's a journey through the island archipelago to places that often cannot easily be visited, but are still a part of the country. South of Jakarta is the famous Zoological Museum right beside the entrance to the Botanical Garden of Bogor. The kings of Bogor were already distant history when the Baron von Imhoff had a country estate built here and the Dutch discovered the region. Under the next British governor, Stamford Raffles, the Botanical Gardens were built. Bogor is also famous as the production site of gamelan gongs. Wood artists paint masks, and stone carvers sit in front of their houses on the roadside. You can also find the Batu Tulis here, with their ancient Sanskrit inscriptions. These are the inscribed stones. Further to the east is Bandung, the capital city of the province of West Java. After Jakarta and Surabaya, the third largest metropolis. Only a few of the erstwhile Art Deco buildings still stand, like the Savoy Homan Bidakara Hotel. The Jalan Braga was once described as the Fifth Avenue of Indonesia. There are still some buildings that have the original architecture from the colonial era. The Alun-Alun Square is located right in front of the large mosque Masjid Agung, which is open all day. A place of peace and faith. Just outside Bandung is the 1,830-meter-high Tacubang Perahu volcano, where a road leads up to the edge of the crater. The gigantic caldera is fascinating from every angle, and close behind some vendor stalls, paths lead along the edge of the crater. A few craters still spit out hot sulfur steam and bubbling foam. In the biggest explosion, the once cone-shaped dome exploded. And only in 2013, after lying dormant for almost 30 years, did it erupt again. From the village of Kangkuang, we take a horse cart and reach a lake, where we are taken to a small island on a bamboo raft. The few children happily greet visitors. Kampung Pulo seems almost like a model village, but families here are actually just busy with farm work during the day. The island's temple sits in the shade of the trees just behind the village on a small hill. The island's small cemetery is also unique. And so, onward with the journey. From the mountain road, 439 stairs lead down into a hidden valley to the traditional Sudanese village of Kampung Naga. Raising small animals and fish farming caters for about 300 inhabitants. The fish are fed by the children, and the women process the rice grains, whilst the men work in the fields. Because of its location, the village is always well protected from tropical storms, but also from being discovered. Even further south is Pangandaran, palm forests spread out behind sandy beaches. People here have always known the best uses of fruits. We drive 26 kilometers through the jungle. Here is one of the main tourist attractions of the region, the Green Canyon. Wounded and rescued animals are nursed back to health in the turtle sanctuary. On the western beach, you have a clear view of the washed-out embankments, and fishermen and bathers are on the eastern beach. The nature reserve forms the end of the bay. In caves live bats and hedgehogs. Macaque monkeys inhabit the jungle, and roe deer wander around. The small fishing village of Kalipukang lives off the daily catch of sea animals of all kinds. However, recently tourism has found its way here, and small boat owners offer rides lasting a few hours over to Kilakap. The short trip to the Sigara Anakan Sea Bay begins via the Tandoy River. Always coming across villages and fishermen, until the large buildings of the port and industrial city appear. Slowly, we moor at the landing jetty. We have reached our destination. From Wonosobo, we explore the Dieng Plateau. Approach by night, and in the darkness, the ascent to Sinukia Hill. At the top, dawn begins to slowly break, revealing a dream world of volcanoes. Back down, everything looks different in the daylight. Colorful little houses line the empty street. Past two lakes, and then we arrive at the main temple of Kandi Arjuna, the most visited temple ruin. In the nearby Kawa Sikidang crater, you can not only see the sulfur fumes, but smell them too. Further east is Borobudur, the biggest Buddhist monument in the world. The princes of the Shailandra dynasty ruled here from the 8th century. It was a small kingdom that drew its great wealth from agriculture. Borobudur was built several centuries before the great cathedrals of Western Europe and around 300 years before Cambodia's world-famous Angkor Wat Temple. This meditative pilgrimage leads symbolically from the lowest levels of human life up to nirvana and complete peace of mind. Borobudur was and is again a pilgrimage destination of the Buddhist world, a gigantic sacred building. The city of Yogyakarta and its province have been governed by a sultan since pre-colonial times and enjoy special region status. Jalan Malioboro is the most famous street and has existed since the city was founded. And the Sono Budoyo Museum is considered the city's most important museum, with an unparalleled collection of Javanese cultural goods. Also, the bird market has not lost its appeal. Taman Sari, the water castle, was the Sultan and his court's summer residence. The Sultan's palace, also called Kreton, is the spiritual and political heart of the city. The palace complex, built in 1755 under Sultan Hamengkubuwono I, is still characterized today by its splendor and pragmatism. Culturally, the city is considered the cradle of Javanese culture. The traditional Indonesian shadow play Wayang Kulit is the oldest form of theatre and has been documented as early as the 10th century. The Ramayana Ballet provides a fascinating performance, complete with elegant movements and opulent costumes. Performed is the story of Rama and the battle between the gods and the demons. The temples of Prambanan are located close to the city of Yogyakarta. This area was once home to a powerful and prosperous dynasty. The largest Hindu temple complex in central Java, built in honor of the god Shiva, dates back to the 9th century. This stone symbol demonstrates the victory of the Mataram dynasty over the Buddhist Shailandra. The 42 relief scenes on the main temple depict stories from the Indian epic Ramayana. Cells depict Shiva, Ganesha, and Shiva's wife. It was designed to be more impressive than anything that had existed before it. About 60 kilometers east of Yogyakarta lies Surakarta. In 1680, the capital of the Islamic kingdom Mataram was relocated here from Kota Gede and became the seat of the Sultan in 1745. The old Sultan courts are considered relics of the past. Surakarta has always been a paradise for antique collectors. The Sultan still resides with his family and 200 servants in the Puromangkunegaran Palace. Today, the gardens of the Sultans are freely accessible. There is a bird contest taking place in a nearby village. To get there, we have to cross a river in a small ferry boat. Bird lovers come from all around to this competition. Now begins a ride on a horse-drawn carriage from village to village. We visit the production of rice crackers. And drive to the never-ending rice fields, which are right beside the villages. Surakarta train station takes us back to the present day. From here, we begin a train ride along the volcanoes of Java. The railway junction Kertosono sits at 43 meters above sea level. Continually onwards past villages and small towns. Suddenly, the weather changes, and it becomes clear why everything grows so well here. Soon we reach our destination. Malang was once the center of power and culture in Indonesia, and it still captivates visitors today with its colonial charm. A special attraction is the bird market near the river, with many different species, and the neighboring flower market. The Eng Ang Kiong Temple is a symbol for Malang's Chinese population. But Kampung Warna-Wari is indisputably the tourist attraction of the moment. The jeep ride to the Bromo Tengger Semeru National Park begins in the village of Ngaras. In between a short stop at Koban Piland Waterfall, which falls 30 meters into a gorge. The narrow mountain road leads further upwards. After the entrance checkpoint, we travel over a small ridge. Suddenly, the first viewpoint. In front of us, the huge Tengger caldera. We have to cross this crater. The Tengger people live here, a small tribe living in the mountain villages. But the highlight of the trip is still to come the next morning. An almost supernatural play of colors on the horizon, and the contours of the surrounding landscape come slowly into view. Mystical atmosphere, breathtaking light, and the landscape of a strange, unknown planet. In the northern part of Java is the thriving town of Surabaya and its harbour. In the traditional river port Kalimas, the Indonesia of old lives on. The Arab Quarter is an old neighbourhood full of mosques, markets and colonial buildings. Tourists are rather rare in the hot and humid city, and are hardly noticeable when driving through the market lanes. The congested Red Bridge spans the Kalimas River and leads to Chinatown. In 1919, the Hotel Orange opened as the first in the city. Now it is called Hotel Majapahit. Here colonial flair can be guaranteed. Not far away, the Hero Monument. It's not surprising that the Dutch colonial masters felt right at home here. Bali, the island of dreams. Denpasar is capital of Bali, and under its historical name Badung, it was the principality's administrative center. In 1953, the Pura Jagannatha, the temple of the ruler of the world, was consecrated to the supreme god. This, the city's oldest Hindu temple, dates from the 14th century and was established by the envoy of the Majapahit Empire. The rear section has been well preserved and dates back to the early days of Javanese colonization. Most of the shrines were destroyed by earthquake, but subsequently rebuilt. Every effort was made to ensure that the original design was maintained in order to retain the dignity of the sacred images. In 1910, the Bali Museum was established as a symbol of political reconciliation with the Dutch. The buildings are a combination of classic Balinese temple and palace architecture. Located in the northeast of the island is Klung Kung, former capital of the dynasty of the same name. As a former seat of Dewa Agong, the supreme of God, and the highest ranking of the Balinese Rajas, for many centuries Klung Kung held a special importance. The Raja's palace was a cultural center for all of Bali, and also a center of power. And in the Hall of Justice, judgments were duly rendered. Further north on the slopes of the Gunung Agong volcano is Bali's largest religious sanctuary, the country's first state temple of Pura Besakih. On special occasions, thousands of Balinese Hindus visit this, the mother of all temples, where authentic religious dance performances entertain the faithful. At the temple is a sumptuous feast, and sacrifice becomes an entertainment. It's not known when the first sanctuary was built here, but it would have been before the arrival of the first Hindus. Again and again, earthquakes destroyed several sections of the temples. Yet the destructive flows of lava spared the holy shrines of Besakih. The last Raja built a royal bath on the slopes of the Agang volcano. He named it Tirtha Ganga. In the pools situated among beautiful paddy fields, both rulers and their kinfolk were at home here. In the past, the gardens, roads, bridges, water pools and pavilions were only accessible to the Balinese nobility. The near east coast at Kandidasa may not be ideal for swimming, It's an area where there was once a village whose occupants worked on the production of salt. Now less profitable, and so worked by only a few. With great effort, the salty sea water is dragged to sandy fields and poured out. The sand, soaked with salt water, is placed into a vat. The brine crystallizes, and white gold is created. Not far away, located on the coast, is the Bat Temple of Goa Lawa, a natural phenomenon of the underworld. Here, the mystical snake Basuki is worshipped, a creature that feeds on bats. The faithful pray and offer sacrifices before various shrines, beyond which the cave contains thousands of bats. The visit to the Bali Bird Park is certainly a good diversion from all the temples and holy places. Here the visitors can marvel at the fascinating blaze of colors presented by the birds in the neighboring vicinity. The streets around Ubud are full of artisans. Also, stone statues are the result of much laborious manual work. Many silversmiths produce filigree works of art. Most of the products are supplied to temples and hotels. Balinese painting, also developed at the royal court, all of it religious and also anonymous. Woodcarvers create popular masks made from local timber, while the tourists watch in fascination. The motifs represent gods, demons and heroes from Hindu history. At the entry to the monkey forest near the town of Ubud, the famous saint monkeys welcome those who come here. The cheeky little macaques are thought to be the descendants of the mythical monkey king Hanuman. It's thought that around 600 monkeys have always guarded the temple of the death goddess Durga, a task that makes them hungry. In 1923, one of the oldest monuments in Bali was discovered, the Elephant Cave of Goa Gajah. A demon guards the entrance to this man-made cave. Its dark interior indicates that here Ganesha, the elephant-headed son of Shiva, has been worshipped. Near Bangli, former center of the Kingdom of Bangli, is Pura Cairn, which is also known as the Treasure House Temple. Statues in the style of Wayang Kulit figures flank 38 steps, up to the Kulkul Tower and the Kori Agung Gate. Chinese porcelain plates are embedded in the wall of the courtyard on the upper terrace. Due to their foreign origin, they were considered to be precious. Various temple guards set in stone guard the 11 shrines of the inner sanctuary, the Jeroan. Exceptional stone carvings adorn the Padmasana, the divine throne of the Trimurti, Shiva, Brahma and Vishnu. On Bali, the range of volcanoes continues. The active Gunung Batur volcano, to the north of the island, is the country's second most sacred mountain. Steep and bumpy roads lead from the rim down to the dark lava field-covered caldera. Up until 1917, this was the location of the village of Batur. But when the volcano erupted for the first time in the 20th century, it buried the entire village under a layer of deadly lava. The caldera was formed millions of years ago. Its crater lake is in the shape of a crescent. Surprisingly, the settlement of Batur was relocated to the rim of the crater, and another temple was built there. Colorful umbrellas, gold-painted gates, winged demons, and stylized snakes wherever you look. The shrines are dedicated to various deities and are guarded by fancifully decorated stone figures. Ornate gates and various steps lead to a second courtyard that is surrounded by several shrines. Gamelan music and Ligong dance are part of Bali's culture. The movement of the body, and especially the position of the head, the play of the eyes, and various facial expressions, each form the traditional elements of the dance. The dance originates from the royal courts of the last century and tells the story of a princess who has lost her way and is offered sanctuary by a king. Even today, many girls dream of becoming a famous Legong dancer. To accomplish this entails a lengthy training period, rewarded by performances up and down the country. A journey to the center of the island, from Sibale to Kaliki, is a great experience and one not to be missed. Uphill through small villages and lush greenery, typical Balinese country life. Rice is Bali's staple diet, and this thousands of years old landscape architecture forms the perfect backdrop to this requirement. In Tigaragang, the impressive rice terraces can be seen from the opposite hill of a small river valley. Not far away, on the upper reaches of the Pakarasan River, is the revered sacred source of the Tirta Empul Holy Spring. Since the 10th century, magic healing powers have been attributed to its pure spring water. At the 4th full moon of the year, residents of the nearby village use a sacred stone in order to clean the spring. Legend has it that it was here that god Indra scratched the earth and created the spring, whose water gave immortality to his divine legions. A short distance downriver is the almost hidden Gunung Kawi, a long stairway of stone steps that leads through the lush green vegetation down to the river. Well disguised, a rock wall suddenly appears with several candis, more than 7-foot-high niches with a facade of stone sarcophagi. They are massive grave monuments for godlike royalty. Without an interior, the candis are stone reliefs. In a traditional Balinese home, many generations live together. Each family has its own sleeping quarters, whose furniture varies according to age group. In the courtyard there are shrines which serve as a seat of honor to numerous deities during their visit to Earth. Sangay also is located near Ubud, where there is a monkey forest. In the midst of the dark forest is the mystical green moss-covered Pura Bukit Sara temple that dates back to the 17th century. These speedy monkeys, when fed, quickly make friends, but also demand an appropriate reward for their entertaining performances. In the cool islands of the north is Bratan Lake and its temple located in the caldera of a primeval and long extinct volcano. Pura Ulan Danu is situated on a small headland. In the temple, the life-giving goddess of the waters is worshipped by the region's inhabitants. This temple complex was built by Raja of Mengwi for Shiva and Vishnu in the early 17th century. Apart from these deities, others may also have been worshipped here. Directly on the slope of the caldera above the lake is where the botanical gardens of Biru Gul was sited. Not only tropical plants thrive here, but also rare cacti can be admired in a tropical greenhouse. A special experience in the island's humid tropical zone. On our return journey to the south of the island are the picturesque paddy fields of Jatiluwi, a fascinating, picturesque landscape. The rice farmers became landscape architects and created skillfully shaped rice terraces that have now become a popular photograph motif. A little remote and surrounded by a mountain forest, from a clearing suddenly appears one of Bali's holiest temples, Pura Luhu Batukau. Here Mahadewa, deity of the Batu Karu volcano, is worshipped, and for whom there is a shrine in each of West Bali's temples. Their ancestors worshipped the Rajas of Tabanan in a 3-tumpang Meru. A wet and slippery route leads down to a mountain stream in the vicinity of the temple, where there is a stone throne and tiny shrine. Further south, near Mengwi, is the Temple of the Beautiful Garden. the second largest sanctuary after Puro Besaki. The Pura Taman Ayun complex is surrounded by a wide moat with well laid out courtyards and shrines. All of its grandeur and significance is explained by builder I Gusti Agung Anom, who founded the powerful kingdom of Mangui. The Barong dance that is performed outside the temple scenery is certainly an impressive experience for any visit to Bali. Soon Barong appears with a lion mask, embodied by two dancers, front and rear. The mystical creature is accompanied by masked dancers. Between them, temple dancers appear and attempt to delight the gods with their dance. Here, evil fights good. Again and again, the battle ends without result because good and evil go together like night and day, like both brightness and darkness. At the most southerly is a peninsula that contains Nusa Dua, where several hotels have been built since the early 1970s, such as the Oyodhya Resort Bali. The entrance resembles an altar with deities, and everywhere are shrines, statues, and traditional decorations. The courtyard is a watery landscape framed by an assortment of residential buildings. And the beach offers well-tended lawns to fine sand. In the east of the peninsula, the establishment of the Guk Cultural Park began in the 1990s. A huge Garuda bird is above the rocks, and the head of a large bronze statue of Hindu god Vishnu. It was planned to be 66 meters high, but this was only enough for its head and upper body. Close by is the southernmost tip of the grandiose Uluwatu temple, again guarded by monkeys. This is a state temple dedicated to Dewi Danu, patron goddess of the sea. It's located high above the sea on top of the cliffs, which drop perpendicular into the sea. At dusk, the nearby open-air theatre is the ideal setting for an atmospheric performance of Kicak Kak, or monkey dance. Costume dancers are surrounded by up to 100 men, seated in a circle and calling for Kicak. The dances from the Ramayana legend are accentuated dramatically by a male chorus, and the sound of battle is created by human voices. The modern Kicak is very popular with tourists. Back on the main island in Kuta are wonderfully spacious white sandy beaches and the warm Indian Ocean, often with waves several meters high. Here, relaxation is the order of the day, and the waves attract surfers from all over the world. The Puratana Lot temple is wonderful and should be on any holiday agenda. Its location on a small rocky peak about 50 meters off the rugged southwest coast is quite captivating. The crowds that come here have also attracted many tradesmen to the mainland. And even at sunset, it's quite busy. Indonesia is a melting pot of cultures and religions, of old villages and modern civilization. The world's largest island state, which allures through ethnic diversity and exotic magic.